Can I start? Okay. Good evening to everyone in Baku and to the audiences online. We know that the plenary is still going on, so we're going to start this event. This is the event on learning tools for net zero biodiversity reach future for forest countries. We've heard in so many events in this pavilion as well as in other pavilions, and today at the big hall that forests are indeed one of the main sectors that can provide fast and sweeping emissions reductions. But when we look at climate commitments, in fact, it's clear that there is a lot of work to do. And just to give an example, the NDC, of the top 20 deforesting countries, only 20 have included quantified goals. So this has quantified goals to reduce deforestation. And this raises an urgent question. How can we help countries translate knowledge and data into effective policies to protect their forests while achieving climate goals? So this is where the Red Plus Academy 3.0, like we have NDC 3.0, now we have Red Plus Academy 3.0, that is also part of the solution. This is a platform designed to equip decision makers, practitioners, and communities. Joining with me today to discuss our three fantastic guests, Mr. Mario Bokuchi, the head of the UN RED program, Mr. Lee Wo-soo from the Korea Forest Service, and joining us virtually, Ms. Daphne Gitonga from the Africa Forest Forum. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. Now, let's start with some context. Over the past decades, we've seen progress in RED Plus implementations, but gaps remain, especially when it comes to empowering stakeholders with the knowledge they need. So let me start with Mr. Mario Bokuchi. Based on UN RED's work, how are the learning needs evolving? And what do you think? Are current platforms really keeping up?
Thank you, Katrina. And I know we have a virtual audience, so I really want to greet our virtual audience here in Baku. This is a very busy time because the negotiations are going on plenary. So we have people going in and out of the various pavilion. But this is a super important launch that is taking place, and I'm very honored to have colleagues from the Korean Forest Service here with us, a great partner to work with. And, you know, as we're talking about innovations and going forward, really having this type of hybrid dialogue where we bring the vibe of the Baku COP to those connected virtually is a good way of working. So going back to your question, Katrina, I just want to reflect on one thing that we heard also in the previous session here and through the day. We are moving from an era where we were doing pilots, we were making commitments, and now we're moving into a decade where we have to massively scale up actions, massively scale up finance, and connect different sectors. In the session before this, we spoke specifically about agriculture and forest. And so what this means is that we are going into a very different space than the space where we have been so far. We need to up our game, our collective game. And this is where learning is of paramount importance. And learning from each other, learning from partners, the story of South Korea, addressing its forest restoration and sharing that knowledge with everyone else. We heard it from many other countries also through the day today. And so this learning is going to be a key feature to achieve the objective that we have put to ourselves, halting and reversing deforestation by 2030 and mobilizing climate finance at scale. And so this is where, the platform that is being launched today with the generous support of South Korea, and I would say equally important, with the full partnership in the design and in development and deployment, is a very important moment to lay the foundation and create the tools that are going to accompany us for the years to come. This is going to be a fundamental, very powerful tool. This is going to be of service to the communities out there. And so for this, I'm very grateful and very thankful to the Korean Forest Service to be a partner for this platform. Back to you, Katrina.
Thanks, Mario. And that's I'm turning over to Mr. Lee from the Korea Forest Service. So based on what Mario has said as well on the differences in learning and the landscape that we are seeing right now, what in your perspective should feature in a platform like the new RED Plus Academy to really help countries, especially those that are still developing their NDC targets or are still very either very early on or already quite advanced in their RED Plus journey? Over to you, Mr. Lee.
Yes, thank you. I think, yes, thank you. I think Mario's speech is very good, but I think we have a learning lab and we focused ASEAN region and last year and this year, Latin American this year. For the learning lab, we can invite and include local communities and indigenous groups per participating country to understand RED Plus, which has not only carbon benefits but also non-carbon benefits such as alternative income, activities, ecotourism, microfinance, awareness raising, and so forth. So all participants know the benefits of RED Plus, so they know why they keep forest and forests good things. Also, the learning lab has diverse materials with colorful subjects. If participant countries' officials can work on translation and dismiss these to villages after they back to home countries, it will be better assessed. So I think UN RED Academy has a good textures, but it's only English or very few languages. So I want to translate these textures for many languages for help communities or other indigenous groups. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. On your point on communities and indigenous group, they are a very big part of our journey to make sure that the learning not only or the knowledge not only stays with the government or those people in power, but actually the ones who are doing a lot of the work on the ground. I will turn over now to our third speaker, who's virtual, joining us from Nairobi. Daphne, your work focuses also on knowledge management, so bringing different sources of different types of information and knowledge, and working with all of these broad actors that we've spoken about. What are your views on how knowledge platforms can help reach these actors and enhance their learning, that we really add value and not duplication? Daphne?
Okay. Thank you very much, Katrina, for this opportunity to join this discussion. At the African Forest Forum, we have in fact leveraged knowledge platforms in collaboration with the UN RED program, FAO's Regional Office for Africa, as well as other partners to enhance engagement and learning. And from experience, we found that this can be done in several ways. Knowledge platforms, for one, they serve as centralized hubs where resources, knowledge products, data, tools can be made accessible to all actors, regardless of their age, gender, location, or expertise, a repository of sorts. And this levels the playing field, addressing systemic barriers while at the same time empowering marginalized groups and ensuring equitable access to information and inclusivity. Now, also we found that the content can be offered in multiple languages and formats: chat, video, infographics, podcasts, learning labs, webinars. All these can be able to cater for varied learning preferences as well as literacy levels. Also, as you're aware today, AI and machine learning are tools that are available on knowledge platforms that actually provide tailored learning journeys through users' interests, roles, or expertise. At the African Forest Forum, we've been able to also use knowledge platforms to host a series of communities of practice. For the past 3 to 4 years, we've hosted virtual gatherings which have really enabled peer-to-peer sharing of success stories, countries' experiences, and expertise in support of strengthening sustainable forest management in the context of climate change. And in the same token, I'm also pleased to share that just next week, AFF and the UN RED program will be hosting a 2-week community of practice on the UN RED Academy, where we will feature live webinars, chat discussions centered on strategies to enhance social inclusion in RED Plus implementation across Africa. Lastly, knowledge platforms, they also have dashboards, live updates, of which can really aggregate and display real-time data that can first and foremost showcase how your activity is performing, as well as inform decision-making to facilitate uptake of knowledge. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Daphne. I think your work is truly very impressive. So just before we unveil the updated RED Plus Academy, I would like to ask each of the speakers, like, what's your wish list for a learning platform? Just a few words that come to your mind. Perhaps I will start off with Mario. Like, what will be useful for you? What's your idea of a perfect learning platform?
Thank you. I would say, you and Mr. Lee and Daphne have covered very well. To me, the dream is a learning platform that really allows us to connect beyond what we've been able to connect so far. And we have been quite good at doing it, but we really have to massively scale that up. And I think this is to the point that Mr. Lee was making. I would like to emphasize even simple things like making sure that the learning material, the briefs, they're all available in as many languages as possible. And I think here is where also artificial intelligence is going to be helpful to us. So I am really dreaming of a tool where language is no longer a barrier, where we can go beyond the sectors and the groups that we normally engage. And I think so I see this platform not only as a learning opportunity, but also as a connecting opportunity. Back to you, Katrina.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, like a platform that connects everything and also translates different languages. To Mr. Lee, what for you is an ideal platform that will be useful in your work, but also in the work that you do in the region?
I can suggest participating countries adding a link to the UN RED on their government homepage. If the government homepage update UN RED platforms and their context, I think accessibility will greatly increase if it is posted on the government website, and all communities or indigenous people can access these platforms, and they know the RED Plus good things, or how to they manage the forest, or how to prepare the RED Plus. So I think the government homepage update or linking is very good ideas of the UN RED platform's idea. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yes, so for Mario, it's connected from yourself. Also that it's sensitized, like it's the awareness is raised that there is this platform, especially for end users. And it's not just actually at the COP where we're competing with so many different events, knowing today is also Nature Day, but also out there, the wide web, we're competing with a number of learning platforms every day. There are new things coming up, and then we have AI as well. So where it provides learning quite easy and quick for others, but of course there are limitations. From your side, Delphine, what's your wish list? What's one thing you haven't seen?
Thank you very much, Katrina. And we've had the experience because we're trying to foster knowledge uptake, replication, upscaling for M&E, tools that can track progress, gather feedback, measure impact. This can all help us in improving the uptake of information. We also need a platform that can motivate people to join. As admins, sometimes we need to encourage participation. So how do we encourage users, community members to participate? Possibly through recognition, offering certificates of participation, for example. Apart from that, I think also we should combine both the theoretical learning with on-ground trainings. That way we could be able to work together to foster this uptake of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so the wish list is getting longer. So we had like the connectivity, that the awareness among local governments or governments as a whole and the stakeholders, and also from your side that the uptake is increased by making sure that the theoretical knowledge is translatable with on the ground action. So thank you for sharing all of these inputs, and without further ado, I will share with you a sneak peek of the current RED Plus Academy 3.0, knowing that this is going to be continuously improved over the course of time, and we will keep on pushing this in different fora as well to increase the uptake among different government stakeholders. So I'm going to be sharing my screen Okay, so if you can see my screen, and let me know if you're able to see my screen now. Okay, I think we're good. So imagine you're a government official, which is our main target audience for this RED Plus Academy. And you've been introduced, or your boss has told you, okay, can you please provide me an input for a meeting on nesting RED Plus initiatives? So you've been asked to provide that input in about 2 hours, and you don't know where to start. So first you go to the RED Plus Academy, the new one, and you log in. And we have introduced, as Mario had also said, let's try to integrate AI to support learning as well. So we have a learning assistant that is powered also by AI that greets you, and perhaps you want a very, very specific information at that point, like, do I need to nest my RED Plus project? So that question, well, let me just turn back, you will get a short description of the steps of what you need to do, but at the same time, it will link you to the specific decision tree, guiding you through each of the steps on how you should decide whether or not to nest what your RED Plus project. So first it would say, okay, what are there different scales of RED Plus implementation? If so, are there overlaps? And if there are overlaps, evaluate the impacts of overlaps, yes and no. And finally, after considering the steps, it will show you the different nesting approaches. So this is just one example. It will also help you learn the concept of something new like nesting along on the go. So it explains nesting and links you to different micro-learning tools, like, for example, this interactive presentation. It will show you the different case studies, examples, not just through presentation, but it could also be like a listening mode, like a podcast, as well as for the more traditional learners, there's also the PDF version for what is nesting, what are the steps of it. So after going through that, within less than 2 hours, you will not only understand nesting, but also get a clear guidance on whether or not it applies to your context. So this rapid access to structured, actionable knowledge that is not only theoretical, but also linked to on-the-ground implementation will not only saves you time, but also make sure you're prepared for that meeting, which this is a use case for our ideal audience as well for the RED Plus Academy. So we're catering not only for the modern learner, but also for the traditional learner. But the Academy doesn't stop there. You can also explore, as Mr. Lee also mentioned, we have been hosting learning labs last year in Asia Pacific in Bangkok and this year in Lima to enrich and share foundational knowledge. So as I said, it's also online there, all the materials. And we have communities of practice. So far, we have 4 communities of practice. We have the Safeguards Community of Practice, the AFF Community of Practice that Daphne is also working on. And finally, we have some discussions to increase the uptake of knowledge and transform knowledge into policy change. So the final slide is our pitch on what makes it really unique. It's learner-oriented. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned RED Plus practitioner, the platform offers you resources tailored to your level. It's also personalized because we have this chatbot that guides you through tailored learning journeys. It does recommendation systems, so based on what you had searched before, it will tailor the recommendations based on that, helping you find answers as quickly and as context specific as possible. And finally, it's dynamic and collaborative. We have micro-learning tools like the decision trees, the community of practice with over 1,000 users. It's also built with multiple languages. So as Mario had said, yes, it can be connected because you can include like a traditional language or Korean or French, Spanish, all the different languages and still be able to communicate and to ensure that there's continuous growth and in engagement. So I invite you all to visit redacademy.in.housebase.com to test this tool out. Thank you. And with that, we will close the event. But before we close the event, I'd like to hand over back to Mr. Lee for the closing remarks.
I think RED Plus is a good business that is cost-effective and delivers a variety of non-carbon benefits. However, there are difficulties in carrying out the project due to the participants of various stakeholders, including local communities and indigenous people. I hope that the project will be promoted successfully by improving the understanding of the project among various stakeholders. Through the RED Plus Academy make this problem solve it. So I think RED Plus Academy can overcoming the climate crisis, and everyone around the world will enjoy the value of forest. So this is very good things, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone. And yes, thank you, Korea. Thank you to the people in the room and to our virtual audience. I hope you have a lovely day.